So in the previous video, I talked about how I am actually skipping the 40 series graphics cards, and I'm sticking to that. So this is a 4090. It's the Zotac Gaming. It's the Trinity OC edition. The whole 24 gigs of VRAM, lots of features, dual BIOS and all that stuff, and it's not mine. So I have a customer and has some pretty deep pockets, and he wants a all-out build. And this is the main piece of it. I mean, this thing was like, now filming this, I think we're back in here. I gotta kind of talk ahead and talk about the future, but we're in November right now, and we paid like $2,800 for it. Well, he did. I did explain to him that it's a little high and all that stuff, but he wants it now. It is what it is. What the customer wants, customer gets. So we went with this. Now, graphics cards are kind of depressing. Well, at least the new stuff. Some of the old stuff, the prices are dropping amazing. I'm seeing 980 Ti's going for about $100, 2070s for $200. I'm seeing some great prices on a lot of the old stuff, but this new stuff is ridiculous, with these cards starting out about $2,000, and then of course, you know, you have the upgraded models from the, you know, the whole aftermarket people and all that good stuff going upwards of $2,500 and even higher depending on availability, scalper prices and all that stuff. And even then the scalpers ain't doing too good with that, but still the prices are just all over the place. And even the 3090s and the Ti's, I've seen those prices just jump up ridiculous. But hey, that's the world we live in right now, and we got to move forward with it. So this customer, we're building a complete computer. I think we're going with a 13900K and all that good stuff, and there's going to be a dedicated build on that. But we went with this one, the GeForce RTX 4090, the Zotac, like I said just a few minutes ago. And honestly, I've been loving these Zotac cards. I bought a 3090 Ti Zotac one. Fantastic card. I've been using it for a couple of months. Quiet, smooth, no issues with that. I got a couple of older Zotacs, so I'm late to the Zotac game, and so far, just on my experience, I've had a great experience with Zotac. So now, when I get a new graphics card, this is something that I do, and it's probably a little over the top and overkill. I get the graphics cards, I take it out, and we're gonna do an unboxing and all that good stuff. And the reason why I take it out is I just pop it on the bench, run it, go through the whole stress and torture test, and make sure it's 100%. Yes, you could do that on the computer and do that and do it on the old test bench of the computer with the whole motherboard thing, but I like doing it this way. Number one, I know this rig works. I know there's no issues with it, so I can rule out the fact that there's no compatibility issues with the graphics card as far as working with this older rig. I've actually used newer graphics cards and new rigs and had issues with it. Also, I actually get to take a better look at it, make sure the fans are working good, no weird noises, get an idea of the coil whine and anything, and just really go through it. So this computer is actually going to be delivered to the client, which is actually 10.5 hours away in Indiana, and we're going to be doing a whole video on that. It's going to be pretty cool, so you definitely want to stay tuned for that. But before I drive a computer 10.5 hours away, I need to make sure everything works 100%. So I'm going to pop it in this one right over here, do the whole stress test, make sure everything looks good, make sure everything works pretty, and then in the next video we'll actually do a build and see how it works with that. So let's unbox. Now, I did open this up right over here just to kind of make sure that, you know, I didn't get a graphics card, or excuse me, I didn't get a box full of rocks, which that's actually happened to people. Or you open it up and it's a 2080 Ti or just a 750 Ti, and yeah, it's kind of crazy. And of course, the love, gaming, power, the win. Very nice. Opens up just like so. We get our graphics cards, which, oh my, this thing is definitely heavy. I'll pop that over there. This is for the whole RGB goodness, which this is going to be not an RGB PC, which I'll talk about that in just a sec. We got our famous fire connectors that set your computer on fire, which is pretty awesome. We'll definitely talk about that too. And whole standoff bar. Oh yeah, this is the riser or whatever you call that, the support bar, and we don't need that now. We'll actually need that in the build, but we will be using that. And that's pretty much it. Let's make sure to miss nothing else. Yep, that's it. So that's cool. And this one, like, this is the warranty and all that good stuff and jazz, which I do always register, especially these high-end cards. I do register them and I put them in the warranty. And the reason why is that, I mean, this thing costs $2,800. So you want to make sure that if you have a problem, you know, at least a year from now, we can send it back and, you know, not lose our money. I will say, it's a pretty looking card. Very nice. I like the color theme, and with the motherboard that I went with and the case and the style that we're going with for this build, it's going to look real good. It's going to look real good. Hopefully the RGB is not too terrible on this. And like I said, we'll turn it off, and that will solve that issue. Let's look at the whole length thing. Roughly 14 inches. Power connector. Let's do our little peel over here, one-handed. High power consumption. Please use the only separate cables, the fire cable. Awesomeness. Man, these fans look really cool. Let's look at the back. Now this one's supposed to have dual BIOS. I don't know where that switch is. Maybe it's a switch. Well, there's a button over here, so that might be the dual BIOS. I have to look up the instructions on it and kind of get an idea. But wow, I mean, just $2,800. It's crazy that this graphics card costs as much as a, I mean, mid-range, maybe even somewhat of a high range. Well, maybe the mid-high range PC. But I mean, it's just insane, the prices. You got a 3 slotter, and well, sticks out a little bit, so maybe a 3 1/8 slotter. But I will say this cooler is just, maybe if I do a couple of curls like this, yeah, you know, might get the whole muscles, you know. The missus might like that. So let's pop it in the bench and let's see how this thing goes. Now what's really interesting about this is that this is on my bench, and even the way it's laying, let me just, the weight of it. So I'm going to pop in a screw just to kind of, you know, give it every little chance we can, just to make sure that we have no issues, and just kind of hold it in place. Now for our fire sticks. So reading and watching all the other people that have done millions of reviews on this, the key is to really make sure this thing is sitting in like snug. And surprisingly, that thing clicked in really smooth. I've actually seen graphics cards where they're actually tight and didn't fit in, but this thing sat in real nice. So yay for that. Now this is a 1050 watt power supply, so we gotta make sure that this thing has plenty of juice. We're doing 4 individual connectors. 1, 2, 3, 4. Everything's good. No piggybacks. Individual power. We're ready to go. This is insane the way these graphics cards are now. Pull one out. Flick the power. Fire it up. Whoa, it's red. It's blue. A lot of different colors. Let's make sure we get a display. And my X299 just takes forever sometimes just to, I don't know what's going on with that board. She fires up, no smoke, so that's a good thing. So the first things I always do is I run like heaven. I run FurMark, and here's why when I do this, when I get new graphics cards. I've actually run into this issue where I buy a new graphics card for somebody, I ship them the computer, I've done the bench testing, but if you're not aware of the memory and the graphics frequencies, you actually could have a bad card or a dud on the silicone lottery. I've had this happen a few times where the customer gets it, they say, hey man, I'm running it, computer's running great, but the graphics card is like not on par with other similar cards or just the same card, and they get concerned about that. And then I've looked, and the graphics and the memory are actually down like a couple of 100 megahertz. I've seen that happen with brand new cards, and typically, from my experience, that just means that, well, you didn't win the silicone lottery and kind of got a dud on that. That has happened. This is one of the reasons why I do it. I'm looking at the graphics and the memory, and I'm actually will check it with Tech Power Up, and just to make sure that it's within the margin. I mean, you're gonna have slight, you know, 1 to 2%, whatever, but you should not see a 10% degradation on a brand new card. So looking at this thing, I'm running at 1080p Extreme Heaven benchmark. I mean, the temperatures on this thing is fantastic. I mean, idle, we're at 40 degrees Celsius is the highest I've seen it. I've already ran this thing for 20 minutes. It is a little cool in the garage, and people are racing in the background. And the fact that it's 54 degrees Fahrenheit, I'll convert that to Celsius on the screen. So this thing is cooling fantastic. I have no issues. The card has 0 coil whine, which is pretty impressive. So this passed test number 1. Now the second test I also do is FurMark. A little redundant with running Heaven, but this one's a little more torture. And as you can see, the temperatures, how well this comes in, we're at 59 degrees Celsius, so it's actually putting more load. The card is actually pretty quiet. Fans are barely audible. I mean, you can't hear it. So it passes the FurMark. The temps are good. The clocks are still within where they need to be. Happy with that. Power load is good. So now I move on to the final one, in which let's play a game. And one final test that I absolutely do with these is, number 1, you game on them. And I'm running the benchmark right now, and I'll actually play a couple of, maybe like 20-30 minutes of the game. And the reason why is I've actually run into issues too. I've seen this happen where the graphics card will benchmark fine all day long, but the minute you go into a game or you play a game session for too long, it will crash. Sometimes it's something as the BIOS on it. It could be another issue, but you know what? We need to make sure that doesn't happen. So Shadow the Tomb Raider, 1080p, highest settings, ray tracing on, no DLSS. I mean, we know this card is going to run fantastic. Looks beautiful, the graphics quality on this. I've actually never played this game with this high, but 143 frames per second. Our temperatures, we're at 41, 42%, 61% usage. I mean, our memory, our GPU, our speeds, our clocks, everything looks fantastic on this. This thing runs good. So I'm actually going to jump on here for a little bit, play a couple of, maybe a mission or two or something on this with Shadow the Tomb Raider for a little bit, just to kind of make sure that there's no wonky stuff with this card. And then I'll come back and close it up. So the purpose of this video is actually not to necessarily showcase this card, but just kind of give you an idea of what you should do if you're spending this type of money on a card like this. I mean, $2,800 is a lot, and even if they would have gotten it for around MSRP for about $2,200, whatever Zotac is selling it for, it's a lot. And if I'm going to sell this computer, send it over to somebody who's 10 hours away who can't easily drop it off, I need to make sure this thing is like 100%. The benchmarks, Heaven, FurMark, and even gaming on it, those 3 things need to be done, in my opinion, anytime you're using, either if you're buying a used or an older graphics cards. I find that if it checks the box with those stress tests on it, doing a little gaming on it, then the card is good to go. I've seen new cards right out of the box that they stress test fine using these, synthetic tests, and then the minute you game, they crash, or even vice versa, and it's weird. And then also doing this, I've also seen cards where they come in and you got a dead fan, and this is brand new card. This is not necessarily Zotac. I've seen this with Good Gigabyte, Asus, MSI. I've seen them with all of them, and it's just, I mean, it's the luck sometimes, and maybe I just got the bad luck where I find more dead cards than not, but it is what it is on that one. This one runs fantastic. I'm very happy with this card. The customer will definitely be happy with it, and hopefully these tips and tricks that you've seen on this video will kind of help to make sure that your card is running good. The biggest thing that I will say to take away for this is make sure that your clocks match what it's rated for. If it's rated for XYZ, make sure you're within that. I mean, a 1-2% margin, give or take, is negligible at best, but if you get a card that has a 10% degradation on it, RMA it back or take it back to wherever you bought it from, try another one, and see you're good to go. So hope you enjoyed this video. Zotac gaming card, a beast. 4090, of course, a beast. But like I said, the prices of the graphics card, $2,800, $2,200 for a graphics card is ridiculous. Even though I love the way this thing performed, I will not be popping one in my computer until these things probably drop down to maybe in 2 years, a year or two, to about $1,000. But even then, they'll probably have a 4090 Ti or whatever. But to go out and spend the money right now, I mean, if you have it, spend it. But if you don't have it or you don't need to buy it, I would say just kind of walk away. My 3090 Ti performs flawlessly. I'm happy with that. That'll be the card I'll use for a while. So, I mean, it's up to you. How deep are your pockets and how bad you want the latest and greatest? So definitely comment down below. Let me know your thoughts, concerns, criticisms, suggestions, things that you would like to see, things you think I should have done better. I definitely enjoy reading the comments. I read to them and I respond to most, if not all of them. Sometimes it takes a while. There's a lot of comments coming on lately, but I'll try to get to all of that I can. Like this video, subscribe if you're not, and as always, we'll see what we come up with next.